Hello, music theory class. This is chapter 14, take 2, because for some peculiar reason, the last time I videoed a lecture on this chapter, it wasn't recording. So looking up at these words, I'm going to try to go through the chapter explaining what those are. So secondary dominants are chords that have been changed to sound like dominants. You take a key, like C major here, and say you've got a 3 chord and a 6 chord. If you alter the 3 chord by adding a G sharp, you have essentially the 5 of A minor, the 6 chord. So there's 3 to 6, and here is 5 of 6 to 6. Notice that the root movement is up a 4th or down a 5th. 6 to 2, that's root movement of up a 4th. That 6 chord, A, C, E, if you change the C to a C sharp, it becomes a 5 of D minor, the 2 chord. 2, 7 going to 5. If you change the F to an F sharp, you have the 5, 7 of 5 going to 5. And what you're looking for is, what is the second chord, and identify it. And then you can figure out what is the 5 of that if you were in that key. It's a temporary change. So in order to be a secondary dominant, you either have to have a major triad or a major minor 7th chord. And when you see the slash, it means of. So altered chords means changed, altered, changed. So if you got a 2 chord and you make it a major 2 chord, if you see that somewhere, start looking for, if that's a D major chord, start looking for a G chord, because that's going to be the 5 of a G chord. A 2, 7, just change to the F sharp, becomes the 5, 7 of the 5. In C minor, you've got a diminished 2 chord, which can be changed by altering 2 notes to become the 5 of 5. And the 2 half diminished 7th can have the same 2 notes altered to become the 5, 7 of 5. The word primary dominant means the real dominant. If you're in the key of C, the real dominant is the 5 chord, the G chord. But a secondary dominant would be the 5 of 2, 5 of 3, 5 of 4, 5 of 6, 5 of 7, and so forth. Tonicized means made briefly to seem like a tonic. So if you're going from 5 to 6 to 6, the 6 is the tonicized chord. It's been briefly made to feel like its own little 1 chord. 5 of 2 going to 2, the 2 is the tonicized chord. 5 of 4 going to 4, the 4 is the tonicized chord. I hope that's clear. Sometimes secondary dominants will follow other secondary dominants, and in that case, the composer is just having a heck of a lot of fun. So you could take, here's a diatonic circle of fifths, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, and you could change it to be the 5 of 3 going to the 5 of 6, going to the 5 of 2, going to the 5 of 5, 5, 1. And they're just altering each of these chords to make them a secondary dominant of the next chord. So the 7 becomes the 5 of 3, which would have been the next chord. The 3 becomes the 5 of 6, and so forth and so on. Just look at that a little bit and see if you can't figure it out. Sometimes a secondary dominant will not resolve to its presumed tonic. And then you just have to deal with it as best you can. In this case, the bass is going up and the 3 notes are going down. Because that is the root movement of a second there. You can also invert them, just like, so here's a 5, 6 of 2 going to 2, or 5, 6, 5 of 2 going to 2. Then you use the same symbols to indicate inversions in secondary dominants as you do in primary dominants. With the 4 chord, the 5 of 4 happens to be the tonic chord in the key, the 1 chord. So you only have to call it a 5, 7 of 4 if it's a 5, 7 chord, because then like if you're in C major, the 1/7 is C, E, G, B. And that is not the 5 of 4. But if you see C, E, G, B flat, that is the 5 of 4. Which is all they're saying here. When you're part writing, you just use the same rules. So you have to have use the same recommended doublings just like you did before, because the third note in the chord has the function of a leading tone in the key that is being temporarily tonicized. So all conventional part writing practices hold true. The 7th chord has to resolve to the 3rd chord factor. The 7th chord factor has to resolve to the 3rd chord factor of the following chord. Then you can have secondary leading tones, which is just 7 chords, like 7 of 2, 7 of 3, 7 of 4, 7 of 5, 7 of 6, and then these are examples of that. So in figure 14.9, the 5/7 going to 6, the 1/7 going to 2, the 4/7 going to 3. Change it up a little bit, and it's the 7 diminished 7 of 6 going to 6, the 7 diminished 7 of 2 going to 2, the 7 diminished 7 of 5 going to 5. And you only have 3 forms of the secondary 7 chord, just a diminished 7, a half diminished 7/7, or a fully diminished 7/7. And the word for the notes that are altered are non-diatonic tones, meaning you're going to write some notes that don't belong in the scale, the prevailing scale. Because in C major, if you go D, F sharp, A, that F sharp is a non-diatonic tone. It doesn't belong in the key of C. But you need it in order for that to be the 5 of 6, for that D, F sharp, A to be the 5 of 6. So in figure 14.10, B flat, 7 diminished 6 of 5 going to 5. 1, 7 diminished 7 half diminished 7 of 5 going to 5. 1 fully diminished 7th of 5 going to 5. So look at those and just think about it a little bit. They'll always resolve to the chord on the other side of the slash. So you don't want a circle progression, you want them to resolve to the chord on the other side of the slash. And they create a leading tone relationships, which is obviously what they do. You want to resolve them in a conventional manner, and sometimes they follow other leading tone chords, and then you just have to be as careful as possible. So in the figure 14.12, you got the 6th chord going to F sharp, A, C, E flat, a fully diminished 7th chord of G. Instead of going to G, it's going to 7 diminished 4, 3, 1. So that's not something that you have to do, but that's something that somebody did. If a composer did that, then you need to know how to analyze it. Voice leading is the same, and I'm going to skip over macroanalysis. History, up until the Baroque period, when they started to have functional harmony, they didn't have a lot of secondary dominants. But in the Baroque period, they started to have them, but they were very cautiously used. So 1, 5, 4 in first inversion, 1, 5, 5, 6 of 5, going to 5. Here's a Purcell. That's a 6 chord in first inversion. Here's a 5 chord in first inverse. Here's the 7 of 5, B, D, F. Going to the 5. Now in the classical period, they did a little bit more. 1 to 5. Back to 1. Here's a 7 of 2. Going to 2. 5 of 2. Going to 2. Here's a romantic period where they really got into it. 5 of 6. When you see accidentals like that in a key and you're trying to analyze the piece, start looking for a secondary dominant function or a secondary leading tone function. Going to 6. Here's a 7 of 2. Going to 2. 1, 6, 4. Sorry. 5. 1. And then a Chopin Polonaise, a 2, 7. Whoa. 5, 7 of 6. 5, 7 of 2. 5, 7 of 5. Going to 5, 7 finally. 1. 5, 6, 5, 5, 5. Woohoo! Chopin is no fun to analyze. And here's the Brahms intermezzo, where it goes from a 5, 5, 7, 1, 6, 4, 2, 6, 7 of 5, 5, 7. That's a hard piece. I've played that one. As you get into the 20th century, it's less and less common. Then, when you get into jazz and pop music, they have something called the 4-chord formula. So, for example, you might have a 1-7 going to a 6-7, going to a 2-7, going to a 5-7. Or you could have 5-7 of 4, 5-7 of 2, 5-7 of 5, going to 5-7, or a 1, 7-7 of 2, going to a 2-7, going to a 5-7, or a 3-7, going to a 6-7, going to a 2-7, going to a 5-7. Those sound kind of like pop or jazz type. Pop or jazz, and this paragraph down there, I'll read that. Tritone substitutions just means that instead of, for example, this 5-7, they're going to go down a tritone to a D flat and do, that is a major, that's a dominant 7th on the note or tritone below. So instead of, it's, so that's kind of a jazzy thing to do, or pop music or jazzy thing to do. Nice work if you can get it. You've got 5-7 of 6, 5-7 of 2. This is an example of a 4-chord progression. Well, actually, it says it's a circle progression with no substitution. 5-7 of 2, 5-7 of 5, 5-7. 5-7 of 4, 5-7 of 7 flat, a flat 7, 5-9 of 5, and 5-9 of 5. Whoa! And now they're doing substitutions. So 5-7 of 6, instead of doing a 5-7 of 2, they're using a chord built on a tritone away. 5-7 of, instead of the 5-7 of, instead of the 5-7, they're doing this chord built a dominant 7th, built a tritone below. So that's just plain scary. Summary, practice, read that on your own, and I will start doing an exercise video next.